Hello all, welcome back. It's been a while since we had our last video, and in this one I wanted to talk about one of my favorite topics when it comes to investing, and I do have my text edit here and calculator to discuss a few things. I want to be talking about one of my favorite topics, and I haven't hidden it. I love dividends. I have a quite a large selection of stocks that I'm holding that are paying dividends. I really enjoy getting the passive income going. But I kind of wanted to create this video to explain a few things about dividends because I know there are some misunderstandings potentially. I know that myself I had some misunderstandings, and I actually didn't quite understand how dividends were actually working and what all this language was actually meaning, what actually means about dividends. So what about the ex-dividend date? How is the amount calculated? How much will I be getting paid if I purchase stocks? So initially, I kind of thought that once as the stock goes down, it basically gives you more money back, like in dividends. But I didn't know exactly how that worked, and I was like, yeah, should I know that I should buy it low because I will be getting a greater yield. But how exactly would that work? Why am I getting a higher yield? I knew that this was changing because I was looking at Yahoo stocks, for example, and I could actually see the dividend yield going down. But what is that? What is that all about? So let's talk about how it actually works because it's important to know how things like that operate. So each company, let's picture AT&T in this moment, so that I'm actually holding in my portfolio, and each company actually declares that they will be paying a dividend amount every quarter. It's typical for most stocks. So they pay an amount every quarter, so four times a year basically. Now, if you take a look at this page, for instance, you'll see that for 2018, the amount that has been getting paid is 50 cents. So 50 cents, and this is 50 cents per stock. So you own a stock, you get 50 cents back. Now, this value, the 50 cents value, is not gonna change for this quarter. So once this quarter payments are done, it's gonna be 50 cents. What does change is the value of the stock, right? So the stock goes up and down in value. So right now, today, as I'm creating this video, the price of AT&T is 32.67 dollars per stock. So in a week from now, in a month from now, it could be 35, it could be 30, nobody knows. So that price will change, but the price of the dividend that's going to be paid per share is not going to change for the next 3 months or for the quarter basically. So if you bring our calculator here, the current price of the stock is 32.67, right? So 32.67, and the yield, as you see here, is 6.2 right now. So if we multiply that with 0.062, which is 6.2 divided by 100, it's just basic math. So this comes back with 2.02 dollars as a yield per year. So this yield here signifies how much you're going to be getting back per year. So you know that at the current price of 32.67 and the yield of 6.2, you're gonna be getting back 2.02554. Now this is basically gonna be fixed. I mean there are increases, but it's fixed for per quarter. I mean each quarter, but basically it's about the same per quarter. It may be like a little bit higher if the company comes back with a raise. But let's say that we know that for the next year we're gonna be getting this amount back. So now, if our stock was at let's say it comes back down to 30. So now our stock costs AT&T costs $30. So normally we would multiply by the yield, right? and this would come back with 2.02, because we know that this value is not going to change for the most part. It's what the company will pay us in a year. So each stock will give us $2 per year, or about that. Again, there may be a slight increase, but it's about that. So let's say that in a quarter, it gives you 50 cents. The next quarter, 50 cents, 50 cents, and 50 cents, which is about what's going to happen here. And eventually, we're gonna get to 2.02 is the exact one. Let's say 2.02, which is the exact one. So what we could do is, in order to find the actual yield, we could do this calculation, right? So if we do this divided by 30, it's gonna come back with 0.0675, which basically is equal to 6.75%, right? So you see that because the amount of dollars that we're gonna be getting back is basically going to be the same, because the company is going to be paying the same amount of money. I mean, they need to know how much they're paying per year or per quarter, right? So the fact that the price of the stock dropped means that we can basically buy the stock at a higher initial yield, as it's called. So if I bought the stock today, it costs $32.67, and that gives me a yield of 6.2%, as we saw here, right? So that's today. That's the current yield today. Let's say that next week it goes to $30. So next week, the yield is going to be 6.75 next week, if that's the case. So if it goes to $40, you can use the same method to calculate that yield, right? But as you can imagine, it's going to be lower. It's going to be less. So we can quickly calculate that. 2.02 divided by 40. It's going to be 5.05. So 5.05. Let's say next year, for example. So what you see here is you kind of understand how that works. Like it's the amount of stocks that you own that are going to be giving you the yield, because that the actual amount that's going to be paid, it's not going to change. It's going to be 2.02 per year. It's really important to get the stocks at a better price, though, to get the stock at a better price, and that gives you a great starting yield, again, as it's generally called. Now you see that how important it is to actually buy stocks, and especially blue chips, once they get discounted. It's a great opportunity, massive opportunity in some situations. Like you see here, a $10 stock change can mean basically almost 2% extra yield, and that's extremely important. And that's because if you have, let's say, $10,000 to buy stocks with, let's say you can buy next week, which is going to be 30, or next year, which is going to be 40. So if you bought next week, you will be able to buy $10,000 divided by 30, 333.3, let's say, about that, 333. So, and if you divide by 40, you obviously will be able to buy less, 250. So now you have more stock here, but you have the same in value. You had the same in value when you actually bought it. It was $10,000. Now this costs 40 now, so the value is more. The actual the actual value of the stock, I mean, is actually $40 now. It's more expensive, but when you got it, you got to 250. 250 stocks, 250 stocks. That's next year, right? So not next week. Next week we said it's like 30. Now, for 333 stocks, let's say that we have 333, and the yield is 2.02, right? So these 133 stocks are gonna give us $2.02 per year. So if we do the calculation here, it's gonna be 333 multiplied by 2.02. So it's going to give us $672 a year. So $672 a year. So the second situation where we had 250, again, if the amount remained the same, the amount of the dollars that we're getting paid a year would remain the same, then we'd get 505. So 250 multiplied by 202, it's gonna give us 505, right? Sorry, it was 505 a year, and you kind of see the difference here in the actual amounts. The yield, actually, the extra yield, the 6.75 instead of 5.05, and you can actually see it very clearly here. It actually amounts to the exact same value. It actually, it actually shows you the big importance of buying the stock when it's actually lower in value, so that you actually own more stocks instead of less stocks, because the amount of stocks you own is what actually gives you the actual payout. So it's calculated based on the amount of stocks that you own, not the actual, oops, that was 10,000, not the actual amount in terms of value. Very, very important to remember. And that basically means that if you're, let's say that you bought a stock, you bought $10,000 worth of stock, right? $10,000 worth of AT&T, and let's say that you bought it in 2012, for example. And in 2012, this was AT&T was paying $2 per year. Now, in 2018, let's picture that 2018. Let's picture that AT&T had some issues, some troubles, and the current worth of your stock is $7,000, right? So let's say that there was a 30% drop. So now today you have $7,000 worth of AT&T, but AT&T has been increasing dividends. So in 2018 they actually paid $2.4 per year. Now, even though the actual amount of stock that you have in terms of the value of that stock has dropped, you're actually making more income, right? Because the amount of stocks that you have hasn't dropped. You have the exact same stocks. Let's say that you had, that's just an example. Let's say that was, actually, let's go with this example. Let's say that you have 333. Actually, let's put it here. So in 2012, you bought 333 stocks, right? You never sold any. So in 2018, you still have the same amount. You have 333 stocks, right? So what changed in between is the value of the stock. So the actual value of your stock is $7,000, but the yield has been increasing because the company is increasing dividends. So normally companies tend to increase dividends. So as you see here, for instance, the history of AT&T, every year there's an increase. So 2012, it was 44 cents per quarter, and now it's 50 cents per quarter. So basically, you see the increases here, like 2% every year or so. And the starting yield, the high starting yield, generally means lower increases, and vice versa. But you see here that basically in 2012, you were making 333 multiplied by 2, it's going to be 666, the number of the beast. I swear I didn't plan for this. So, and in 2018, again 333, right? But now you're getting 2.4. So you're making 333 multiplied by 2.4. So now you see that you're making almost $800. And that shows you how important it is to hold stocks that give you great dividends and great increases in terms of dividend growth. Very, very important, because you also really care about dividend growth. It's not only the starting yield, which is obviously also very important, but as you are compounding your gains from dividends, and as the company increases dividends at high rates, that massively affects your returns. And by holding a stock like 10 years, for example, you see how that affects you, and especially when we're talking for stocks that have high dividend growth rates. So they increase dividends in higher rates. This is not an example. AT&T actually has a higher starting yield instead. But we can potentially have case studies for both situations in separate video tutorials. But yeah, that's the idea behind it, and I hope that kind of explains to you, gives you an idea of how um, dividends work, and how they are paid and how companies declare them. And the last thing that I wanted you to know, in case you don't, is that generally speaking, this ex-dividend date is the important thing. So companies actually declare that they're going to be paying an amount per quarter. So let's say that AT&T came back and said, let's say that was July, for example, of 5 July of 2018. So let's say that they came back and said in the ex-dividend date for our next payment is going to be the 9th of July, and it's going to be in the amount of 50 cents. And oh, that's the declaration date and the record date. So the important thing that you need to know, so the record date is, I believe, when it's actually recorded, but the ex-dividend date is what is important for you. And it is important because that's the day you need to know, and that's the day you need to remember when you actually purchase the stock. So in order to be given this dividend, you need to have purchased the stock at least one day before that ex-dividend date. Not on that date. If you purchase it on that date, the dividend will go to you, to the seller, to your seller, to the person who actually sold you the stock. It has to be a day before at least. So and it's gonna be paid on August, obviously, in this case. So that's what you need to know basically. The most important thing about the ex-dividend dates. Uh, you need to be owning the stock uh, one day, at least one day before that. So like the 8th of July, in order to be getting paid at the 1st of August. That's what it actually means. So that's it for this video. Hopefully that was interesting. Again, I love dividends and I hope that you like them too. But as I mentioned in previous videos, I'm not, I'm not necessarily only using a strategy. I have different portfolios in which I'm using, I'm buying dividends. I also like buying mutual funds, and I also like growth stocks as well. I mean, I can see that all of them have their own merits. So we're gonna be talking about the different topics and different ideas in terms of the investing world, and to each their own, as they say. So I can just talk about things, and we can just talk about things, and each one has their own strategies and ideas. But it's important to know what are the differences and what are the risks involved, because it's different to hold a dividend stock or for a blue chip company, and much different to hold a stock for a growth company, and like a technological growth company. It's generally tends to be more risky for reasons that we're going to be examining potentially in other videos in the future. So please let me know if that was useful to you, and please leave a like and subscribe as well. And let me know what other topics you would like me to discuss. I'm thinking of creating a series in which I'm gonna be examining individual stocks potentially. I think that would be useful for me as well. I'd like to, and I always like to do, some analysis on stocks. I enjoy it. And so, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon in the next one. Bye bye.